proudly presents your newest source for news and perspectives you won't get anywhere else. Patriot Tonight.
Good Friday night, everybody. I am Kim Alfano, a Republican media consultant, alongside Katie Mazur, who is the host of The Right Side at the University of Delaware. You are listening to Patriot Tonight on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125, and we are coming to you from Delaware. So tonight we are going to be talking about, some exciting, I don't know if exciting is the best word, but some interesting things that have been going on. And we have a great guest, Dr. Rebecca Grant. She is an expert, especially in Iran and North Korea and world affairs. And we're going to get her on the line and have the chance to pick her brain about today's very exciting day. Dr. Grant.
I don't know about you, Kim, but I'm very excited to be guest hosting Patriot Tonight today.
Well, Katie, this is not unusual for you, right? Because you have run your own radio show here on this Northeastern Liberal College campus for a couple years now, right?
Yes, this is my third year hosting my own conservative political talk show. It's called The Right Side, and basically what it is that every week I come into the studio for an hour and just talk about whatever I think is relevant, especially in terms of political news and conservative news, because I feel like being on a college campus, you just hear everything from the same sources and from the same side. And my message with my show is I want to let people know that are conservative that you're not alone, and especially with college students, there are other conservatives out there. I feel like so much of the time we feel like our voices are being suppressed or it's not okay to be conservative, and that's really why I started my show. Is I got to this campus and I felt like it wasn't okay to be conservative, and I'm thankful I have this platform where I really am able to express my beliefs and have a lot of people listen.
So Kate, that is exciting, Katie. And tonight we're going to have the benefit of learning from an expert. Rebecca is on the line, Dr. Rebecca Grant, who knows very much what is going on around the world and will certainly give us some great insight. Dr. Grant, welcome.
Hey, Kim and Katie, it's great to be talking with you tonight.
So where are you tonight?
I am at home in the outskirts of D.C. I've been in D.C. today where, believe me, everyone is really, really focused on the Trump speech and his decision not to fully certify the Iran deal. It sort of kicks off, I think, a new era in our diplomacy over there. So a lot of talk about that in D.C. today.
Now, that agreement made by Barack Obama was sort of an end run around Congress. It was a way to sort of create a treaty without ever having to have Congress involved. Do you think he made the right decision not re-upping and sending it back to Congress where it should have been in the beginning?
You know, I like that he sent it to Congress. It's really doing a treaty that way just on technical terms is really not what our founding fathers envisioned. So I think he's made a clever move, sending it back to Congress. And, the treaty is incredibly complicated. It now requires Congress to go ahead and decide if they want to reimpose some additional sanctions on Iran. We already have a pile of sanctions on Iran, and Trump outlined some new sanctions that are very important. But basically, this goes back to Congress to say, okay, you are the representatives of the American people. You decide how hard we're going to push and where.
Okay. Hi, Rebecca. This is Katie. Glad to be talking with you tonight. And my question for you is, do you think that the timing of this Iran deal has a lot to do with what's going on in North Korea right now? I mean, Trump has really gone after Obama and Clinton for their dealings with the North Korean nuclear situation. Do you think that this is Donald Trump's way of kind of trying to come out in front of all of this and showing they may have been weak in terms of our policies with nuclear countries, but I'm going to be strong?
Yes, Katie, I think North Korea is part of what's going on behind the scenes. There are some other factors behind the scenes, too, but North Korea, definitely, it's pretty hard to say no nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula, but hey, Iran, we can live with you being 1 year away from building a nuclear weapon, which is basically where the Iran deal left us. So very hard there. But there's some other important things behind the scenes, and one of them is what's going on in Syria and Iraq. Iran has really extended its influence with Syria, where they support Bashar al-Assad, and they've extended their influence in Iraq as well. So as Trump and our allies begin to look at what they call the post-combat aftermath in Iraq and Syria, Iran has to be one of the factors that they deal with. So I see that it's not only the nuclear piece, but Trump is also giving himself a little bit of negotiating and maneuvering room as we start to look at how to settle down the aftermath there in the Middle East. A lot going on behind the scenes.
Do you think that Donald, this is Kim again, do you think that Donald Trump's style with all of this, it seems very unsettling, I think, even to some of our allies, to some people back home. I, for one, think it's purposeful. I think he's purposely making people unsettled because I think he's trying to be just a little bit to the right of crazy so that those folks that we've been dealing with for years and years and years stay on their heels a little bit where they haven't been in the past. Do you think that this is purposeful, or do you think that it's maybe a problem? And
Kim,
especially for our allies.
Yeah, I think it's purposeful. It's very different, right? He's not a politician. There's nothing smooth going on here. But I think it's very purposeful, and you had to see how serious he was in his speech today, standing in front of the portrait of George Washington. So he's very serious, but he's trying to do something that we've never done before, and that is to stop two countries from really becoming full nuclear powers. That's North Korea and Iran. We've really never done this before. When India and Pakistan got nuclear weapons, we said, oh, okay, that's them. They'll deter each other. So it's very, very difficult. Don't forget, too, there is a lot going on behind the scenes. We know he's talked extensively with Congress, and his administration officials have been out. Tillerson and McMaster, they've been out talking, and they are in near constant discussion with our top allies on North Korea and on Iran. So there's a lot going on quietly, which is very appropriate. We've seen relatively little blowback from Congress on North Korea, right? And even not that much on Iran. So I think he's doing this very appropriately, and he wants to try to go negotiate a better deal. It's all art of the deal with him, and he has a heck of a mess to clean up with these two countries.
You know, he jumped out there and went right up to toe-to-toe with Kim Jong-il and called his bluff. And, you know, we haven't heard about that in the last couple of weeks. Do you think that worked? I mean, that was kind of a scary showdown for some people, but it seemed calculated by Donald Trump. He was going to go right up there and push back and say, stop, you know, you're crazy isn't going to scare us anymore. Do you think that worked? I mean, he really has quieted down in the last few weeks.
Yes, he has. Fingers crossed it stays that way. I think it did work because, you know, he threatened Guam, didn't attack, threatened an airburst of a nuclear weapon over the Pacific, thank God didn't do it, threatened to shoot down our fighters and bombers near North Korea, good luck, he didn't do it. So, you know, I think Kim may have blinked here. A big factor in that, too, is that China told North Korea, if you start something militarily, you are on your own. We will not help you. So I think the other thing to keep in mind is that Trump has his actual moves have been pretty conservative. Even, let's say, you know, go back to the strike in Syria, the TLM strike in Syria in April, very, very conservative option. His action today was to not certify and boot the discussion over to Congress. Now, he gave a long list of reasons why Iran is the chief mischief maker on the globe. But what he actually did was conservative and controlled.
Okay, so do you think that there's anything that can be read into having Congress work on this now? You know, we've seen in the last few weeks a lot of criticism of Donald Trump from people like Bob Corker, or even they supposed spat with Rex Tillerson. Do you think that this might be a way of kind of like distracting the American people from what's going on and focusing on a bigger issue?
No, I think this was, he's recertified this deal twice. It has to be checked into every 90 days. And I think that what happened here was he made some progress with North Korea. They worked out an Afghanistan strategy in August, and I think they finally had the time to turn to this, and here came the certification. He'd said all through the campaign that it was a terrible deal, and I think this just had given him enough time to really look at the options with the administration, to have the kind of private talks with Congress and with allies, and then to go ahead. So I think it was more a matter of this is when they got to this issue rather than anything else. And hey, I don't make anything out of that alleged spat with Tillerson. I know what you two think, but I just thought that was that just didn't have the ring of truth to me. So I think that's
and these are
all
guys
in the rearview
that are
mirror.
in business together, and this is how they puff their chests out. You know, there's no formality and no political constraints, I think, on this administration, and that's how they deal with each other. You know, I don't doubt that they call each other names and push each other around, but that's the way they deal with each other, and I think it's respectful. It's never, I don't think it was anything as great as the press made it out to be. And to that point, you know, General Kelly did the White House briefing yesterday, and I think that Donald Trump is the perfect central actor, the face of you know, the administration. He's the, I don't want to say P.T. Barnum because that makes it sound crazy, but he's the guy that's going to go out there and play the big role. But I think that he's done a really great job of having General Kelly and Rex Tillerson, these very thoughtful, strong folks, and the generals around him that are slow and steady, you know, driving the boat. So he can be the flash and they can be the substance in effect. Do you think that when General Kelly did his briefing and Tillerson came out and spoke, do you think that sort of took the temperature down a bit? That, you know, the whole world, after you had Congressman Corker saying that it was, you know, daycare center in chaos. Do you think that he's successfully using those generals to remind people that there's a very serious underbelly to the sort of bravado and brash presentation that he gives?
Yeah, and I wonder if Bob Corker, who has always been such a gentleman, wouldn't love to take that back too. But, you know, the way I see it is Tillerson, Kelly, McMaster, and don't forget Mattis at the Pentagon, they're all on the same team. You know, I think when Tillerson told us that he is 100% behind this, you know, Rex Tillerson doesn't need this job. He's doing this because he loves our country, and it's a heck of a job. So I think these folks believe they're all on the same team. They're on the team with the president, and they have some really big things they need to accomplish. So, yeah, I think they're team players, and they do a good job of letting Trump be the P.T. Barnum, as you so well put it.
Well, and I would go further and say I think it's strategic P.T. Barnum-ry, if that's a word. I think that they have all put their heads together and said that to shake things up politically, to show the world that we're doing things in a different way, I'm going to go out there and break all of the political constraints and rules. And we're going to play this thing in an entirely new way. But I'm a great businessman, and I understand that I need a steady, solid group of people around me to make sure that the machine continues to run. So we're going to change the approach of it, but we're never going to change the fundamental security and basic sort of comfort level that the things that need to get done are getting done. I think the biggest problem, though, that he's facing is Congress, because it's somewhat dysfunctional. So now he's kicked this treaty back to Congress. They've got tax reform, they've got health care, they've got all kinds of things that he keeps throwing back to them and saying, get it done. Do you think that it's going to happen? Do you think that this additional treaty is going to happen?
Right.
Or I'm sorry, sanctions,
what
not
they'll
treaty.
do. Yeah. Will they? I expect that they will come up with some, what's being called some snapback sanctions. They have 60 days, and I expect something to come out on Iran by the end of those 60 days, if not before, definitely. But you raise a good point, and I think one of the unfortunate things of the second Obama presidency was that there wasn't much interaction between the White House and Congress, and that channel went really cold. And I think now that we see a situation where the Republicans really ought to be able to move a legislative agenda, they're a little out of practice. They are having a hard time swallowing the Trump presidency, I think, in the Senate. And, they really have a lot to do. One kind of housekeeping sign of that is so many ambassadorial positions not filled, so many Senate confirmable government positions not filled either. So, yeah, our system of government expects action out of the Senate. They're going to have to get their act together on Iran and a lot of other issues.
Thank you, Dr. Grant, for letting us interview you today. You really made some excellent points about this whole situation.